The summer the house learned my name, I was 7, and the air smelled like rain you could taste on your tongue, thick and coppery from the harbour beyond the hedge. We lived in a long white-walled place that stood as if it remembered every summer before me and would remember after I was long gone. The town called it the Hollow House, though we children had a sweeter name for it, the Boat, because it breathed at the seams and nodded toward the water as if gossiping with the tide. In that year, a little girl named Mira came to stay with us for the days of heat and bread crusts, and the way the kitchen floor sang when you walked on it just right. Mira was older than me by a year or 2, though she moved like a shadow that had learned to walk slowly so it wouldn't scare the house. She kept a small, stubborn ball of dusk-dark hair, and wore a green ribbon that always seemed to catch the light, and with it, a secret. We were inseparable, in a way children believe they must be to survive the long, bright hours. The ritual began with the summer itself, as if the house needed a ritual to remember how much it loved the noise of children. It started with a careful chore you might call superstition if you were generous, but for us it was simply a language the walls understood. On the days when the sun stood too high and the heat pooled in the corners and thinned the very air, we would take 3 small buttons from a jar of grandmother's old clothes, 1 white, 1 blue, 1 red, and set them on the sill of the narrow kitchen window that faced the river. Mira insisted we place the red one nearest the door, because red keeps secrets. I thought maybe it kept time, a little beat to the day. Then Mira had us whisper a name we both swore never to forget, a name tied to someone who was gone from the house, but who, in our game, still kept the house honest. We spoke softly, as if to lull a frightened animal, and the words hung between us and the glass, a thread of sound only the day could hear. The name we chose then was not Mira's, and not mine, but something older than both of us, something the house wore like a shawl when the evening came to lie across the kitchen walls. The walls, for their part, listened with the quiet, patient intention of a mother who has told a story 1,000 times and will tell it again until the end of days. When the last syllable left our lips, the house would sigh, a breath that travelled along the crown moulding and settled in the plaster like a soft moth. Sometimes, if we stood very still, we could feel the room tilt ever so slightly toward the window, as if a boat on a slow sea was turning toward the river again. We did this day after day until Mira's secret grew heavy between us, the way a bruise grows until it becomes a part of your body and you forget it wasn't always there. The summer wore on and Mira's ribbon grew lighter, as though she herself were becoming a rumour the house whispered at night. Then the storm came, one of those sudden squalls you only know exist in memory, when you're old enough to realize how often you dream of them. The night the storm came to the Hollow House, the air tasted metallic and loud, as if the sky had swallowed a barn full of coins and spit them back. Mira and I huddled in the kitchen behind the old stove, listening to the wind snag the telephone wire like a cat's claw and drag it along the gravel and back up to the eaves where it trembled. There was a knock, soft and insistent, as if some creature we knew long ago had learned how to knock politely before entering. The river outside sounded like a mouthful of broken glass, and the house, for once, did not sigh when the wind shifted against it. It drew in its breath and kept it, waiting. When the rain finally began, Mira turned pale in the lantern glare. She whispered the name again, 2 times, 3, the words curling into the rain as if they could catch the rain itself and keep it from washing away the last of us. Then the storm opened its teeth, the wind tore at the sill, and the river rose with a quiet insistence that could be heard even inside the floorboards. The door to the hall, the door we never opened after dusk, the door that had always been a little bit too sure of itself, shuddered, and a light found its way under the crack of the frame, pale and insistent as a patient ghost. In the morning, Mira was gone. The ribbon lay where she had left it, a streak of green in the dust. We searched under beds, behind doors, in the pantry where the jars stood like patient soldiers with their lids tightly pressed. The house too searched. We could feel it. The floorboards squeaked in a way that did not belong to any furniture worker's plan, but to a living map of someone else's steps. The 3 buttons remained on the kitchen sill, untouched by rain, as if the storm had not happened at all, as if it had occurred only in the memory of the room's breath. The adults in the house did not know what to say beyond the polite old lines about how children do impossible things during heat, and how the sea is to blame for the sea's own memories. They said Mira's family had taken her somewhere else, somewhere with less wind and more quiet rooms. The house did not contradict them. It did not scream. It simply settled deeper into its own skin, as if it had learned the truth the way a tree learns the change of season. Slowly, irreversibly, and with a certain gravity. Mira did not return, and I did not forget the way the house whispered to me after she vanished. The whisper was not loud. It did not demand to be heard. It came as a hum in the cast iron of the stove, a soft cadence from the walls that grew stronger when I pressed my ear to the plaster and listened for a name I did not fully understand, but could almost remember from another life. The house, perhaps, began to learn my voice as well, to respond when I spoke to it, as if to a friend who had grown too quiet to answer. I kept the ritual, of course. The 3 buttons remained on the sill, and the window kept catching light as if it wore a secret just beneath its surface. Years later, when I left the hollow house for a city that hummed with neon and machines, and the rumour that people could live without listening, I would sometimes walk past the river and hear the old house breathe behind me, a long, slow exhale that sounded like a sigh 100 years old. The memory did not fade. It adjusted itself, grew more precise with each passing year, until I could almost hear the house speaking the way a person speaks when they want you to know something you do not want to hear. In the years after Mira vanished, the house changed again, not as a wound heals, but as a thing grows more itself when